if you're a creative, this is probably one of the best times in your life to be alive, because you have the tools to just have fun and just create, be pretty much be a child again and just make things.
Today, I'm very excited to be joined by King Willonious. If you don't know who King Willonious is, he's a stand-up comedian and AI storyteller who specializes in the intersection of technology and culture. One of his biggest creations is an AI viral diss hit song called BBL Drizzy. King Willonious, welcome to the show. How you doing today?
Hey, how's it going? It's pretty good. I'm excited to be here today.
Super excited to have you today. King Willonious and I are going to explore how to embrace AI to creatively produce music and videos. And before we get into that, I'd love to hear a little bit about how you got into AI and music and video. Share a little bit of your story.
Yeah, man, it's funny enough, just my whole AI journey started on Clubhouse, and was in a bunch of Clubhouse rooms, just learning about AI. This is around like December 2022.
Okay.
So I was just on the rooms every day, just like, listening in. ChatGPT had just dropped, I believe, the month prior. And so just learning like all the different tools. And then at the same time, I was doing a TV writing fellowship. And so I had like one foot in writing. I was aspiring TV writer. And then one foot, in these new immersive AI tools. And I was really excited to just learn how to use these tools, because this is the first time, something in this nature dropped that it was just like, just felt so transformative. And then the writer strike happened, and the writer strike really is what got me into AI like all the way, because, that strike happened and I didn't have anything to do. Like I was still trying to write scripts, but it was just like, it just felt like it wasn't going anywhere. I mean, nothing could happen, so you can write, but you couldn't meet with any manager. You couldn't do certain things. So at the same time, AI was just, everything was happening. So it was just like, it was kind of like a no-brainer at the time to just kind of dive into these tools and explore what I could potentially do, with these large language models.
So Clubhouse, man, such great memories from using Clubhouse back in the day. I am curious. So this writer strike happens and you are essentially kind of like stuck. And how does that lead to you ultimately creating? Tell us a little bit more of the story about how you created this hit that went crazy viral.
Yeah, well, BBL Drizzy, man, it was really just, when I always kind of start, I guess, like at Burning Man, because like this was like around August 2023. I remember leaving Burning Man, and I left Burning Man and went to an AI conference. This is like probably the first AI conference that I actually spoke at. It was the Voice and AI conference in DC. And but like prior to that, I was just like, man, I'm just gonna go really hard this year. As far as like AI, like I'm just gonna be like super focused, head down, and just create as much as I can. And I told myself, I was like, no matter if I get 1 view or 1,000 or whatever, I'm just gonna keep creating this year, And part of the reason was my birthday is August 24th, which is Mamba Day, for a lot of people that follow basketball. So I was just like, I'm gonna have a Mamba mentality this year, and Kobe Bryant's number is like 824. So I was just like, I'm just gonna just stay super focused and be process oriented and just create as much as possible. So in doing that, I was making videos every week. I was attending every AI event possible. And if there was an event that I could fly to or like anything in person AI related, especially all the big ones, I was at. I didn't miss a beat. So, and then I was entering every AI film festival. So when BBL Drizzy happened that weekend, it was the Pika Labs 48-hour film festival. And I entered it, and I was like, all right, I was excited. I was probably like on hour 40 or so. And I was like, all right, let me take a break real quick. And I took a break, went on Twitter or X, and BBL Drizzy was trending at the time because Drake and Rick Ross were going back and forth. and Rick Ross said that Drake had fake abs, so he started calling him BBL Drizzy. And I was like, oh, this is funny. So I was like, let me just make a song about it. At the time, Udio had just dropped. People were talking about how this new AI music tool is amazing. So I was like, let me test it out. Just something to kind of like clear my palate, like refresh it in a sense. And I was like, all right, let me just make this song, threw it up, didn't think anything of it. And the views just kept going up, but at the same time, I was like, I got to finish this film festival. So ended up finishing that like 3:00 in the morning, like right at the as the deadline was approaching, and got it out. And and then I'm looking at the views, and it's just
wait, just so we're clear, did you submit this also to the film festival, or are these two different things you're talking about?
No, these two different things.
Okay.
The BBL Drizzy was just a side thing that I just did as a because I was just mentally, I've been staring at a screen for 40 plus hours,
right,
editing this film, which funny enough didn't place at all. But I made BBL Drizzy, so I got the real prize that I wanted. But 3:00 in the morning, had a flight at 6 because I was going to Vegas for this Curious Refuge prompt battle that I signed up for. Again, trying to do everything AI related that I could. Got to the airport, got on the plane. My flight was at 6. Still looking at the views. I'm like, wow, it's going up. Like it's at like 30, 40,000 views.
And where did you publish this, by the way? Which
Twitter,
platform?
initially,
Okay.
Twitter, yeah. And I think I might have reposted it on Instagram too. But I just remember I got on the plane, my phone goes dead as soon as I get on the plane. So I can't even look at the views anymore. And then obviously I hadn't been to sleep. So I pass out, wake up, land in Vegas, wake up, charge my phone, it's at 1 million views. And I'm just like,
whoa,
what's happening right now? But still didn't really have a time to like really take it in because I was just like, one, I barely slept. And then, it was during the NAB. So I'm like kind of walking around doing that. Then I had this like prompt battle that night, which was like a first of its kind. So I'm kind of, like a little nervous. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. And, this is the first time meeting a lot of these big AI people, that I've seen on Twitter in real life, So I was just kind of like, oh my gosh, and it's funny because like you see these people so much, especially the ones that make YouTube videos. They're celebrities in my mind. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I watch you every day. And, so I still wasn't, I was aware that this video was kind of doing what it was doing, but I was trying to be as present as possible. So I wasn't really thinking about it. And then did the competition. And then when I left, I remember my homeboy called me up and he was like, bro, Van Lathan just posted your video or your song on his podcast. He's talking about it. And I was like, what? So when that happened, then I was like, oh, wow, this song might be doing something. Like it's really making rounds, And then it kind of just did its rounds. It went viral for like a day or two. People were talking about it. And then that was it. That's how the normal life cycle for things that go viral. It's like a day or two. And then 2 weeks later, I flew out to LA again, trying to do all the things, I went out there for the Netflix is a Joke festival, wasn't part of the festival at all. I just was like, I don't know what else to do, man. I just need to be in the place. I got to FaceTime. Like, I didn't have a manager. So it was just like, it was just trying to do everything that I felt like I could do I don't even know what I was trying to achieve. I was just doing things. And then during the midst of that, the Netflix is a Joke, that's when BBL Drizzy went viral again. But this time it went mega viral. Metro Boomin took it because he was dissing Drake as well. The whole Kendrick and Drake beef was like really heating up at that time. And then he took it, invited every rapper in the world to rap on the beat. And he made it to the instrumental. And then it went mega viral, man. I'm talking about everywhere. Nuns were making videos to it and, all these different Duolingos making videos. Like everybody was like in on it now. And now it was just like, wow, this thing is mega viral. Funny enough, they played it at the Netflix is a Joke festival. Some of the artists, this artist Masego, he actually did like a saxophone rendition of it on stage. And then at the end of the festival, they were all playing it. I got to go to the Kevin Hart party, the DJ Trauma. he played it. He did a remix of it and this and that. So I was like, yo, this is crazy. I don't even have a ticket to the Netflix as a joke, but like my song, so that's it. It was just, it felt so surreal because it was just like, and even the last day that they played it, like I'm watching everybody walk around me singing it and laughing, and like nobody knows that I made it. So it was like, I don't know. I was just like, wow, I really made something that has impacted the world. And
how many people do you think watch those videos across all the variations of it? You have any sense of it?
Nah, not at all, man.
Can you guess a range? I mean, like tens of millions, more than that?
Yeah. It's probably in the hundreds of. I don't know if people, but numbers wise, definitely in the hundred, if not billion, because it was global. Like it really impacted. It impacted the whole beef. So everybody that followed that beef knows about BBL Drizzy. And then for the most part, everybody within music that's really following music or following AI music, they know about it because it was the first viral AI song. And then so 2 weeks after it went mega viral, then another thing happened. So I was like, yo, this BBL Drizzy, this is the BBL that just won't go away. So Drake took the song and sampled it and used it on the song, one of his songs. So it became the first AI sample song in music history. Huh. And so I have a writing credit with Drake, and I'm just sitting there like, okay, how is this? Why is this? And during all while this is happening, though, I wasn't paying attention to Twitter, wasn't paying attention to TikTok. I just kept making songs, and because I told myself early in the year, when I decided to do this heads down work, I had a video that went viral. It got like 1 million views, and I remember spending most of the day like just watching the comments and just refreshing, to the point where I was just like, I didn't create anything that day. And I told myself, I was like, look, if I go viral again this year, I will not do what I did today. I'm just going to keep creating and just stay with, it's like going to the gym. Like some people go to the gym and after 2 days, they just spend the rest of the time looking at themselves in the mirror, just like, yeah, like we did it. 2 days in the gym, look at the pecs. But you realize like, nah, man, you gotta go back to the gym the next day. And then you go the next day.
You got to get your reps in, right?
Yeah, you got to get your reps in. So, and that's been, anytime I talk to people now, it's just like, yo, the consistency is key. That's whether you spike up and you have a moment where, you hit a peak, it doesn't really matter. The best thing is you just got to keep showing up and doing the work. And everything else, is just a byproduct of that. Like now I'm getting to speak on stages and celebrities and all these different things. But like all these things, they're great. But at the end of the day, the reason that I can even do these things is because of the work. So I can't get caught up in all that and then stop doing the work, because then that'll fade away. And then plus, I'm kind of like at this point now where I really don't care about those type of things. I think if I was 25 or early 20s or something like that, like it would mean something to me. But like now the only thing that really matters is just the work, and the impact that you can potentially have on people. The work serves me because it feels very purposeful and it feels like I'm doing my God-given talent and contributing. I'm not wasting my gifts.
I love that. I want to ask you a couple questions here. First of all, love your story, love your work ethic, love that what you're saying here is, look, I made a commitment at the beginning of the year before all this happened that I was just going to keep doing the work and I was going to do whatever it took to get the learning curve up here and to get some exposure. And then all of a sudden, boom, it pops. So, right. But I want to back up the train a little bit, because there's plenty of creative people listening to this. Maybe they're not songwriters, maybe they're not script writers like you are, but maybe they are interested in AI music and they're interested in video. Or maybe they're just like into AI and the different side of the equation. Why should creatives, let's just address this. Why should creatives use AI? Generally speaking, when it comes to any of their craft, like when it's done well, what can it do for them? Because there's a lot of creatives that are listening right now that might feel a little squeamish about using AI. They might feel like it doesn't fit with the craft. So what do you want to say to them?
Yeah, I mean, I think that obviously everybody's journey is a little bit different, and the tools that they'll use are a lot different. Same way if I'm just a traditional filmmaker, I may choose to use Final Cut over Adobe. Or some people are like, hey, I want to use CapCut or I want to use iMovie. Who's to say how you should edit your film? The reason that I encourage people to use AI or at least explore it is because it's done wonders for me, right? Like I was able to, as a comedian, a stand-up comedian with really no ties to the music industry, was able to affect the music industry in a major way, right? So on top of that, these AI, they're master tools. Like there's like if I was in construction, right, and I just had a hammer, and then somebody comes with some type of
jackhammer,
yeah, like electric hammer or something like that. You can just be much more efficient and productive in your work by having excellent tools. The same way, or somebody that might make beats with just the drums, but then now they have a DAW. Now they have Logic. Now they have Ableton. Like you can do a little bit more. You can be a little bit more creative. Like not taking anything away from the traditional way that you go about your process, but now you have expert tools that just allow you to work better, in some respects. So I encourage people, just try to tell people to just, at the very least, just explore what's out there, know what it's capable of, and then you can make a decision whether or not, like, okay, it's probably best that I do this versus that. But using
like
AI, you're talking about, you have master level tools, that can help you do a lot. So just on the way I use it on the music and film storytelling side, there's pretty much no story I can't tell. As soon as I imagine it, I can ideate on it, and I can create something that's pretty dynamic. I had a video that went viral, 2 weeks ago, where it was a McDonald's video, and Popeyes hired these AI filmmakers to make a video dissing McDonald's. So they made a rap song dissing McDonald's, and the song was AI generated, the visuals AI generated, and my friend, he worked on the music on it. So when I saw it, I was like, wait a second, this is my lane. Like I can do this too. So my first thought was just like, oh, I'm going to respond back as McDonald's. And I wasn't trying to. Only thing I want to do was just like, you guys did something really dope, and I want to do something that, like, let's play now. So within 8 hours, I had a video up. I made the song, did the visuals, and it just kind of took off. My style was a lot different than theirs. Like I went artistically. I went for Ronald McDonald, almost kind of being like the Joker. And that's the kind of visual style I went for. But, if I would have did that through traditional means, it might have came out today. It would have took so long. You had to go through a whole process, casting and getting approvals from people from McDonald's. Like it just would have took forever. You would have completely missed that moment. And also I knew that a lot of people within AI were going to start jumping on it. So since that happened, there was a Wendy's video, there was a Five Guys video. Somebody else did a McDonald's video. I did a Chick-fil-A video because I messaged McDonald's and they didn't message me back. So I was like, well, I'm gonna diss you as Chick-fil-A. So I dissed them as Chick-fil-A. And
that's hilarious.
But that's the power. And the Chick-fil-A was like a 3D animated video, and that was really dope because, like, making a whole 3D animated 2.5 minutes short, that would have took forever. If you even using the traditional tools now, where like using a Blender or Unreal Engine or Unity, it still would have took a long time. So like now, I can do things super fast, and it's fun too, where, like if you decide like, hey, if a brand doesn't want to work with me, then I can just literally be like, well, I'll diss you too. I'll diss everybody, So
just don't diss me, please.
No, I won't diss you. Yeah. But so, it's just super fun, man. And I mean, I think if you're a creative, this is probably one of the best times in your life to be alive, because you have the tools to just have fun and just create, be pretty much be a child again and just make things,
So I love it. So talk to me a little bit about the mindset that you had to adopt in order to really be able to output the kind of stuff that you were doing. I like talking about mindset because sometimes people just need to change their frame a little bit, when they're thinking about this stuff. Talk to me about like, what would you say to someone who maybe wants to get into creating either AI video or AI audio as far as changing their mindset?
Yeah. I think the biggest mindset is just like, again, I kind of adopted a little bit of the mama mentality, but you have to be obsessive when it comes to AI because it's literally changing every single day. A new tool comes out every single day. So you have to just be obsessed and about learning. Really starts with learning and then applying. And then constantly wanting to have like a growth mindset, but wanting to always get better. So for me, like I just want to just be the best version of me that I can be, so creatively, like, just my human potential, spiritual, all these different things. But as it pertains to AI, like I don't want to get like left behind. I want to make sure that, because I was like in Times Magazine and all this stuff, like I know the tools. So if anybody, when I first started out, when I would go to these events, like I knew, what to do kind of creatively, but I'd be in rooms with a lot of technical AI folks. And I was just like, I didn't want to feel like I wasn't supposed to be there. So I was like, okay, I got to learn this thing. I got to be, up on my stuff. So, but having the mindset that just you can do anything, and so if you adopt that mindset, then you just don't see barriers, right? They're just challenges that you can overcome. That's why I love the word challenges versus problems, right? It's just like a challenge, you can always overcome a challenge. If you decide that I'm going to do this, but that's all it is. It's just a choice. Like once you just make a decision and a choice that I'm going to do this, then it's like the way reveals itself, And then lately, like my mindset has just been is to do the hard things, right? Because I think a lot of times it's kind of like was it Robert Frost, the road less traveled.
Yep.
That's really been my career. I've always
M. Scott Peck was the road less traveled, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, that's okay.
I'm like, God, look at the AI guy doesn't know anything. Yeah, I got it.
No, but you got the book right. It was a great book.
Yeah. He's like, couldn't ChatGPT that. But yeah, choosing to do the hard things, right? Like sometimes like that and you end up benefiting a lot more because you learn, right? But just always have that mindset of like continually learning, like just constantly learning and implementing. You have to be, I've been saying this lately, is like you have to be a curious doer. That's what I call myself now, a curious doer. It's just like get very curious about things and then do stuff. So going from a human being to a human doing. And because a lot of times I think when it comes to AI, they'll hesitate. It's like, well, can I do this or should I do that? And I was like, I don't know, man. Like, just do the thing and ask for forgiveness later. But we sometimes put like governors on ourselves, and we restrict ourselves just because like we overthink or we hesitate. So the best thing that you can do for yourself right now in this AI revolution that we're having is speed in learning and speed in implementation. And I mean, that's how I've been able to go viral and I've benefited so much is because I just keep putting things out. If they give views, that's great. If they don't, it doesn't matter because it's not about that. It's about the process.
Love it. Let's talk about the process a little bit here. We're going to get into a little bit of the how stuff. Before we get into that, storytelling seems to be a thread through your career as a comedian. You're telling stories. As a scriptwriter, you're telling stories. Talk to us a little bit about how, any tips on how we can leverage AI in any kind of capacity to create a story, because it seems as if you've got like a story in your brain before you're starting to actually create, right? So talk to us a little bit about the craft of storytelling, maybe how AI is helping you out a little bit.
Well, I mean, I think storytelling is the basis of just life, right? Like, you can't, I don't know. I mean, it just makes everything richer, whether or not you're telling traditional TV stories or film or brand stories, or you're just sitting by a campfire, sharing stories with your friends, or, you're hearing stories from, your loved ones. Like, it's the spice of life. So But in using like these tools, I always start with just like ideas. So I'm always just thinking of ideas and thinking of stories. And, I hear, if I'm in New York and I hear somebody walking down the street and they might say a couple words and I catch it, and it immediately makes my mind starts, creating webs and start thinking of different stories. But being very curious and just like human and the human experience, I think is a great way to start telling stories. And then from there, you can add different genres on top of it. But if you're using AI, I would utilize a large language model to kind of help you out, a chat GPT, and then you can help, you might have an idea and then you can help turn craft that into a story. Even like a thing like Midjourney, a lot of times if I don't have like an immediate idea, I'll just start generating images in Midjourney. And then you might see a really dynamic image and like, ooh, I want to turn that into some type of story. Cause I just love the way this still looks, or it looks like a scene, or it looks like something that I can, convert into some type of story. So,
just from a craft perspective, do you think naturally in stories? Have you always been a natural storyteller, or have you had to kind of learn like the elements of story? Do you understand what I'm asking?
Yeah. Oh man, so that's a good question, because I've been going back and forth with that. I think learning the craft of any discipline is great, right? But I think that there are benefits to just being natural with it and not having a specific process and just being like, I just make my own way, right? You see that a lot of times in people that you're like, they, whether it be like a jazz musician or any type of craft, you're just like, they didn't have traditional training, but they just figured out how to do it. And they become,
like the standard almost, right? They set a
yeah,
new
right,
tone,
because they're breaking every mold. You're like, you don't even. But I went to school for 20, and you're like, but but it's because they're just following their intuition, right? So there is that. Even if you learn all the traditional ways of doing something, I think at some point you get to a creative point where you're like, I gotta break the mold. I gotta try to break or do everything that I learned, and let's try to do it differently. And let's find a new way to create from there. So, it's like when you watch children play, like I feel like they're almost like the epitome of creativity. There's no real rules or rhyme or reason to the way they create. They just see things in their mind and they just make things. They draw pictures and they just, So yeah, I go back and forth with that, man, because I remember when I lived in New York the first time, I took classes at UCB, and they have a screenwriting, sketch writing class, and all these different things. And I remember sitting in the class and like learning their method, and I was like, I write better sketches than them. Like I like, no disrespect to them, but I was just like, I like the way I write my sketches, and I know that there is, especially when it comes to comedy, like it's almost like an equation. Like I look at comedy more so as like math than anything. Like if you take a premise plus an attitude, it'll equal, some type of funny situation. A conflict, two characters in conflict will equal a scene or whatnot. You can draw from that, and it's a good starting point. So mathematically, you can manufacture comedy, you can manufacture a story that way. But if you really want all the emotions and to really touch people, that part is just kind of intuitive, right? That's where the art comes in. So yeah, so I don't know. I just go back and forth with that, man, because there are tremendous benefits from learning a special way of doing things. But then when you just see those individuals that are just free flowing and like they had no training, maybe their training is just life. They're just taking from whatever life is given and they figured out their own method through that. That's also super special as well. So,
that's cool.
I think the best way is if you can find that balance, right? Where you're like, I'm taking a little bit of both and figuring out a new method. I think that's the ideal way.
So let's talk about Midjourney. You mentioned Midjourney earlier, and I know that you told me when we were prepping for this that I believe you used Midjourney to help you kind of figure out the visual look and feel for this McDonald's thing. Just help people understand how, and we've had a couple people on the show talking about how Midjourney creates these beautiful images, but just kind of help people understand a little bit of like, you get an idea, like you're going to do this McDonald's response to Popeyes, right? So what are you doing inside of Midjourney and how is that helping you kind of begin to create the video? Just talk that through a little bit.
Yeah. I'm when I start out Midjourney, man, I'm just prompting. So I always start out, and even whether I'm doing music or images or even doing like text to video, I always start with very minimal prompts. So like no more than 3 prompts to kind of like start out. You know, it can be a little bit different when you're doing text to video because, you know, you might describe a scene, you know, a man inside a car, smoking a cigarette and with his hand on his head. I don't know. But for the most part, if I'm doing Midjourney, I always try to keep it very, very minimal and then start adding more details, you know, once I kind of get that base down, I kind of see where I'm going. But you know, the main thing is just to really, you know, you want to prompt. That's why I always tell people that you got to get like unlimited credits because you'll run through a lot of prompts, you know. But through that process, you know, the more you do it, then it's a lot easier for you to get to, you know, point A to point B. It might not take you, you know, maybe starting out, it might take you 100 prompts just to figure out what you're trying to do. You know, as you do it more, it might only take you 20 or 10. You know, you know exactly where you need to go. But as far as like trying to figure out like the style and the aesthetic and the tone and all that, like, you know, Midjourney is one of the best.
So yeah, tell us a little bit about what you did with the Popeyes thing and just try to describe it in words so people can imagine.
Oh yeah. So for Popeyes, you know, my first thought was, okay, I like the song. I got to make a response as Popeyes. So then I started thinking about like, okay, let me think about Popeyes and all the negative things people say about them. And then so I started using that to kind of craft the lyrics for it. And so creating the lyrics was the starting point. I needed the song as a basis because that would kind of dictate what the actual video would be like. So I made the song and just was like figuring out, you know, a lot of disses that I can potentially talk about Popeyes. And from there,
did you use AI to get some research done for you, or did you just kind of already know?
Yeah. So I'll go in there. A lot of times it's really just like going to Twitter. Twitter is like or X now. I like that because you get a real response of like how people think and they feel. You know, like the best Twitter accounts are the accounts with like less than 1,000 followers. Less than 300 is actually ideal. If you find somebody that's constantly tweeting and they only have about 200 followers, that's a golden account because they're unfiltered. They're really kind of talking to themselves for the most part. So they just say it like it is. And so you're
finding little clips or whatever of what they're saying that you figure you can put into the
yeah. So I mean, I'm like a ninja when it comes to like searching for stuff. But, you know, you just get an idea of like, you know, you say like, okay, you can type in Popeyes, you can type in McDonald's, you can type in some of the negative things that you've seen. And obviously, you know, these brands are around, so you hear what people say, but that's the starting point of just figuring out like, what is it that I actually want to say? They diss McDonald's, so the rebuttal has to be even better, you know, and the beat has to be great. The lyrics have to be sharp and all that. And then visual wise, theirs was like a big party. And a lot of moving images, a lot of fast cuts. I knew that I didn't have as much time as them to do that because I was traveling the next day. So I was like, I got to come with like a style that looks good, can kind of exist for like, you know, each shot stays on camera for like 2 or 3 seconds. So I was like, okay, let me make this more of like an ad, maybe almost like in my mind, I was thinking like a magazine ad, like if like Gucci or Vogue or something like that was like doing the ad. And then as I started, again, going to Midjourney, you just start generating images initially off of that thought. And then you might generate an image that'll take you on a whole nother path. You're like, oh, I like where this aesthetic is going. I think this is the one. So then, but that only comes from, you go and you just generate, because it's like you have this like excellent mood board that you can just sift through all the pictures and whatnot. So once I figured out like the style, then I was like, okay, this is going to be a Joker like that. Yeah, the idea just kept in my head, just kept being like Ronald McDonald's Joker. So I was like, once I kind of figured that out, then it was just like, okay, let's kind of make the rest of this the video. And then so just generate the images. That didn't take too long. I can do that pretty fast. And then once I figure out like the style and I'm able to like animate them the way I want, then it was.
Yeah, explain how you animate those, just for people that don't understand how that works.
Yeah, so I use like VO3 a lot. I use Midjourney. Midjourney has a really great video tool now.
So you just take the Midjourney image you've already created as like the base image in either Google VO3 or in Midjourney, and then you just tell it to basically create a motion out of it or something like that, like a action out of it. Do you just have to tell it create movement, or do you have to get a little bit more specific?
Yeah, you can just press a button and it'll generate itself. But if you want a specific movement in there, then you tell it what you want it to do. So it can be like, character walks towards camera, character turns around, or they lift their right hand up.
How many versions do you feel like you have to go through before you get something that works for you? Is that burn credits?
I have unlimited credits for all of them. So
okay.
I always just tell people until. Like that's all, it's just like until it's done.
How long does it take to render the animations though? Is that
not long?
Time consuming?
Yeah, like maybe like 30 seconds, if that. Some of them generate a little bit quicker, but I'm no more than a minute.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then, so far what we've got is a script that you've written, right? And you're using the script to determine the visuals, and you're going to Midjourney presumably in the beginning to find all the visuals, and then you're somehow organizing those visuals. Do you have a tool that helps you kind of organize them all, or are you just kind of like grabbing them? Is there no tool that really helps with that?
Yeah, I mean, I wish I was a little more organized in that respect. They just all exist in my downloads folder.
Okay, so they're kind of all unorganized in your folder. So, but then you grab them one at a time and you animate them with these various tools. Where's the music layer into all this?
So I'll drop the music. I'm working in like Adobe Premiere. So I'm dropping everything on the timeline in Adobe Premiere. And then,
but where are you making the music? After you've got the visuals? Before you've got the visuals?
No, I do the music. I always do the music first, because the music helps me decide what the tone of the video will be like. So
give us some tips on what you use for music and how that's been for you.
Yeah, it's been great, man. Like using like Udio. That's why I made BBL Drizzy with. You just prompt it. You prompt it the same way you would prompt, image. You put in your particular style, you put in by
the way, it's Udio for people.
Particular style or elements that you want in the video. In the song. So it can be instruments, it can be the mood, it can be all these different things. If you want like a film score, you can add these things into the type of singers, male, female.
What's the rights on the creative stuff? Do you have rights once you make that music?
If you make the song, then you own the rights to it. But you have to have a paid plan. You have to have a paid plan. If you don't have a paid plan, then they can still own it.
Have you tried out Suno versus Udio, and I think it's called Suno? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah. Suno's great too. Suno's really good as well.
So any tips on like, is the music creation just as complicated as creating the audio and the video? Like, what's your thoughts on that?
The music is probably a little bit easier.
Okay.
Just because like you can just type in a random prompt and type in some lyrics, or you have an auto-generate lyrics and it'll spit out something really fast. When making it help if you have some music knowledge. You can probably, craft better lyrics or structure your songs a little bit differently. But for the most part, it's fairly simple. A 5-year-old can do it for the most part, as long as they know how to read. In my name, need to know how to read, to be honest, to make it. But the film stuff is just a lot more steps. So you have to generate the images, you got to generate the videos. Then you have to put it together on a timeline so that it actually makes sense, and it's coherent. So it's a lot more details that go into just making AI films than AI music.
I think when we were prepping for this, you told me that sometimes you make multiple versions and you don't know which one is going to stick. Like, tell us a little bit about publishing multiple variations. And did that end up happening with BBL Drizzy?
Yeah, I did about 100 versions of BBL Drizzy. I put a lot of them out, but I feel like, and it was like each one was kind of like a different genre. But like
Was this,
even the
was
first
this
version,
before or after they went viral? Like, how many were out there?
well, I just kept putting them out because remember before the very first. The BBL Drizzy that went viral is actually the second BBL Drizzy I put out.
Oh.
The first one didn't. I mean, the first one got like 1 million hits, but it didn't go viral like the second one. The second one was the one that like took off. So,
So
yeah.
talk to me about the craft of like why because most people that are creatives don't like the idea of putting multiple variations out there. Like, why is that so important? Like, what's been your experience with that?
I normally don't do it either. I just, for whatever reason, I just decided to. But like, because so many of them sounded so good, so it was just like, yeah, I'm gonna just keep putting it out.
So was it the video that was different, or the audio, or both that was different?
Audio? Yeah.
Okay.
But like a lot of times with that, I think that the future creators, maybe not even all the future creators, but like being able to have the discernment of knowing like which version is the one to put out. That's going to be probably like the creative challenge for a lot of us, because you're going to get so many versions that sound amazing. And then it's just like, well, which one do you pick? So it's a great problem to have, but yeah, I think that's going to be like a challenge. Or maybe you put all of them out. I don't know.
So back to the script writing thing. So have you given up on script writing, or are you kind of still doing script writing now, or kind of where is the connection?
Yeah, I still
like bring us back. Does AI somehow play a role in the script stuff now?
Absolutely, man. I'm working on BBL Drizzy the musical right now, so that's a full script that I wrote. I still love the process of writing and screenwriting because it's really fun, and I've been doing it for a long time. I just do way more AI stuff now, so I don't have as much time to like sit down and really think deeply about a script the way I want to. But that'll never leave. Like the storytelling and the mediums just change, but that's kind of part of my core.
So as someone who has had a massive viral hit, what has it done for your personal brand outside of getting invited to be on lots of stages and stuff? And more importantly, what has it done for your business? Because what I'm trying to get at is just getting lots of views a vanity thing, or is it actually potentially a business opportunity? I want to know what your thoughts are on this.
Yeah, I would say it's definitely a business opportunity because I mean, it generates so much attention to you that, potentially any product or thing that you can sell, it'll sell. For what it's done for me though, man, I think it exposed me to a lot of people. It made people take me a lot more serious, because they're like, wow, he's cracked the code, and not a lot of people have done that. But then I think just personally, it really just confirmed what I've always believed and about myself, and it just allowed the world to see me the way I've always saw myself, and sometimes I think when just being in entertainment, if you don't look a certain part or you don't have certain connections or like you're not really loud and boastful, you can kind of get overlooked. Like I'm fairly tall. I'm like 6'1", 6'2", and but I'm not really the type to just be all like me and all up in the face and doing all the different things. So I know sometimes people do, and I'm a fairly kind person, so like people might overlook me a lot of times. It's a super mistake on their part. Huge mistake, but it happens, like, I mean, it happened my whole time when I was trying to break through in Hollywood. Like I would email agents or managers and like show them a long list of things that I've done. And sometimes I just never get an email back or never, for whatever reason. But like, I mean, I just don't think these people are that intelligent, in my opinion. I'm just being completely honest, but like,
I love it. When your work speaks for itself, I mean, that they're coming to you now, aren't they?
Yeah, they're coming to me now, but it's just like, but it shouldn't, well, I mean, I guess my journey is my journey, but like if I was an agent or a manager and I saw me in the things that I was doing, I'd be all over me. You know what I'm saying? Because like it's not what I did wasn't a fluke. Like it's what I've always done. You know, like I've been going viral since I was in my early 20s. But now with these tools, individuals like myself that tend to get overlooked, we won't get overlooked much longer, right? Like it's like, okay, we have to take this person serious because not only are they creative, but they have the work ethic and the mindset to like just be a major player, and this is without any big backing of a big agency or any, I'm just able to just. And I don't even know if you really need that anymore to a certain extent, right? Like, because like you can find, I mean, these institutions still exist and there are still a lot of benefit to them, but you can just create without limits now. And then all you need is just to find your audience. Once you find your audience, you can have your 1,000 true fans and just make the things that you want to make for them. And then you don't have to think about, oh man, like I used to, when I was screenwriting, I used to hate having to think about somebody that's going to potentially read this script. Like you're like, I'm sure a lot of
my
writers.
My daughter is a script writer, and she was an intern, and she hated reading scripts because it's not a fun process.
Yeah, it's not a fun process, but it's not, you might not understand the nuances of that story and it's not the audit. It's not a story for you. So, I used to just hate, I'm like, I would submit my scripts to, these screenwriting competitions or getting feedback from editing. You're like, I don't even know who's reading this. And then two, I want to write the stories that I want to write, and tell. So obviously I've been doing this stuff for so long, and I know intuitively like what touches the people I'm trying to reach. Now it may not be the quote unquote standard or the proper way to do it to maybe certain people in Hollywood, but I just want the people that I want to laugh. And that's same with you. You do an AI Explorer podcast. The people that love fishing may not be as intrigued.
I would imagine not. Yeah, 100%.
If you love fishing podcasts, you might not be as intrigued with an AI podcast, and vice versa. But that doesn't mean that you don't have an amazing podcast. It's just like you're not my demographic. So, I'm really excited for creators in this time period because I just think that, a lot of the underappreciated and overlooked, they will get their day in the sun, and then the individuals that are just, maybe they've been executives and they just been burned out from doing it. It's like, man, I really just want to tell my stories. They get their day. Like everybody essentially gets their day in the sun now, which we all want to be in the sun. So
I love it. It reminds me of when the internet first came out. I called it the great equalizer because it allowed a lot of small businesses to compete with big businesses. And now AI is the next great equalizer because it now allows small creatives who didn't have the budget to go out there and hire musicians or hire video editors or whatever to create incredible content. And I know, King Willonious, you're just one of many people that are going to be following in your footsteps. If people, and many are getting inspired by your story, if people want to check you out on the socials, which platform is the best way for them to watch your stuff? And if they potentially want to work with you, where do you want to send them?
Yeah, YouTube and IG. And then
just search for King Willonious on there.
Yeah, King Willonious. And then my website, kingwillonious.com. That's the best way to like reach out to me to make sure I get it. IG. Sometimes people message me on IG, but I get so many messages that it's hard to get back to everybody. I mean, I'm super backed up now. I got to build a bot. I have a bot to go through all my messages, but that part is just like, just IG and YouTube, and then send me a message on kingwillonious.com in my contact.
Thank you so much for sharing your insights with us today.
Thank you.